Alright, welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here in Mendham and such. Um, Mr. Stylish. Very stylish cat. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah. Anyway. The agenda sort of is, why do I make videos? Okay, that's sort of or what I would tell. The question of why I make videos is probably the same as what do you want people to do with whatever this is, this information, and not be an asshole, I guess would be the simple answer. And I guess more specifically, okay, if you think about it, the agenda would be that in some way or other this would have leaked to a completely different audience than it's going to now. So that sort of was the intention, I suppose. By accident or something. I mean, you don't want to make videos deliberately targeted at 10-year-olds, but the idea would be is that it would leak down to brains that need to hear it, rather than the ones that already know it. And most of what's being said anyway. And so it started with just simple, I just argued simple ideas about how culture is run, and the right to die, this kind of stuff, some economic stuff, some just some appreciation for the system you're in, which does bring up the I just because accidentally this came up in one of my physics videos, and I thought I did a good job again of just pointing out that money's made out of blood. I mean, it's made out of the fact that people have to go to work to earn it, to acquire it. And so its real value, you can really see, it really shouldn't be printed in green ink, it should be printed in red. Because and it should get redder, the bigger the domination, because that's what it really buys, is life and death and pain and suffering and all of that kind of stuff. And so it should never be squandered. And so if you want to collect wealth and keep the blood unpurchased, that is, without it doing any harm, it's just some representation of some idea that you're owed some blood, that's pretty harmless. But if you want to be wealthy and then you want to spend it, that's where the harm comes in, because that's when you're going to force people to work for you, and instead of that they could be doing something else and more productive, working for the civilization, benefiting somebody who needs something, not somebody who doesn't need something. And when the more high maintenance you become, the more you're just squandering human welfare. You're torturing people for trivial crap. So that sort of gets to the old adage about some mother telling their kid to don't waste that food because there's people starving in China. As much as it's silly, it's actually kind of true, and it should be something you're mindful of. Anyway, so those were like the purpose of the videos, was just sort of to explain some sort of concept that had something connected to my understanding, okay, of what's wrong in the world, is that there's too many people being assholes. You've got to try to correct that in some way. And you can't shoot them, so, blah, blah, blah. You do this instead. And that started with just the idea that, okay, there's certain ideas that are just toxic to good function. Now, I've sort of... I mean, unfortunately, when I found out, the atheism thing seemed a very good subject for me, just because it's sort of central to being able to do anything rational in the world, is you have to have some kind of rational understanding of what we are, and why things aren't what they should be. And they aren't what they should be because we are frickin' bugs, and we are self-interested, and we are self-motivated, and we can't feel other people's pain, literally. And so we often are neglectful of our obligation to realize that it exists and that we shouldn't cause it. So this all gets to the idea that there's, assholes all over the place, and a lot of them are kids, okay, but there's adults that speed down the street, and you say, someday you're going to be very humiliated. You're going to realize that what you've been doing is reckless and dangerous, and it can hurt somebody else for no good reason whatsoever. I mean, you don't need to do this, okay? You can, if you want to do something risky, you can just jump off your own roof. You don't need to go do it on the street. You don't need to be jumping on somebody. And just these sort of life lessons where you realize, okay, I was an asshole, so I know what one looks like, and I know how simple it is to reclamate that behavior, is to just have this simple awareness that, yes, okay, it's a bug planet, God's not going to save the day, we have to save the day, and the only way we're going to save the day is we have to be smart enough to save the day, okay, because you don't have to just be Superman strong, you have to be smart and clever and all of that crap. And none of that comes with this religious package. The simple dogmatic statements about thou shalt fall short. And then but I conceded that, a little tiny bit of the rest of it, where they start talking about doing unto others as you have others do unto you, that's pretty good stuff. I mean, that's something to make a religion out of. But the rest of it, no. All quite useless. And destructive to the purpose, frankly, like I said, of human beings getting real. Now, the problem with that is that the most of the atheists didn't really give a shit about any of that crap. They just wanted to smoke pot legally, and they, didn't want to be too married, and they didn't want that, they were just, they were just more concerned about how it affects them. How the religious people are, constraining them, and they didn't like the lack of freedom they had to be assholes. And so that was sort of the irony, is that I was arguing with people that I really don't agree with, whose ethics are shit, and they shouldn't be on my side. And that's the part that's just sort of disturbing, is that you look at the people on your side of the battlefield, and then you look at the people on the other side, and you say, well, if I had my choice, I'd have dinner with those people, not these shitheads. But this one subject, or this one issue, means I have to kill them, and I have to be allies with these shit. Anyway, that kind of thing. So that's not really a dilemma, but it was just part of the, oh shit, it's just, it always gets more complicated than would be preferable. And so that was just a complication of that. All right, and then it gets more, then the whole channel, because it really wasn't effective at doing any of this, I don't want to say propagandizing, but I didn't, in my opinion, ever cheat the argument. I didn't buffoon the argument. I just attempted to try to make a persuasive argument, but it wasn't effective, and it wasn't working much. So the channel sort of just changed into something I'm almost doing as a side project, almost like the physics thing. It became more of a, well, let's try to figure out what a brain does do. How the hell do we work exactly? I mean, I think all you need to know is your agenda engine is shit, and that you have to be mindful and watch it and just say, well, really, what am I doing? How much of my time am I spending on my personal entertainment, and how much am I spending being conscious of my role in society, and how much, and all that crap. But yes, this very subject of just trying to figure out how to explain what it is to be alive seemed kind of interesting. So, I've been doing a lot of that in these videos. Now, there's still plenty of stuff about culture and structure and you know, the idea that we have to build it, that we can't, you know, somebody else isn't going to fix it, we have to fix it. And yeah, so that's been in there still. So that's my agenda, okay, is to make some kind of, to do something somehow positive in terms of migrating people to a perspective where they're going to have some capacity to do the future a favor. So, I mean, that's really the whole point. So if I'm going to say what do I want to accomplish in terms of an influence, it's to protect the future from the, you being an asshole, frankly. And like I said, most of that had to do with just in a positive way, in the sense of not trying to do the end game of Effelism. Hasn't been, not until the last couple of years has that been the dominant theme. I mean, there was more theme, okay, in the past, in terms of first at least moving in a more civilized direction. So I would call myself a civilizationalist. That I am a believer that you really have to have, a well-structured social infrastructure, and that we could do a lot to make social infrastructure more productive in terms of creating incentives for people to do the right thing. And so I brought up stuff like, even in the case of education, instead of creating teachers, all we really need to do is incentivize learning. And the more learning you acquire and the more tests you can pass, the more rewards you get, kind of thing, especially for young people. And that would be a much better institutionalized system, less waste in it. And certainly you could do that for also things like the illegitimate kids and all that kind of crap, that all the other recklessnesses of youth could be moderated by having a real incentive. Like I said, you can't do it with $10. $10 isn't going to change anybody's lifestyle. $10,000 is going to change how they behave. So you have to make the reward have some proportion to the fact that you're actually asking a person to moderate and change who they are, in a way, and you're basically bribing them into becoming civilized. Yeah. Anyway, but to me it's doable. It's a good idea. It would save us so much grief in the long term, and we'd be more likely to be a civilization of people who were at least at minimum higher educated, which can't be a bad thing. All right, well, anyway, so that's some context of the point. But now ultimately the point is I'm saying, well, let's, since we've already gone this far, we might as well get to the end game. And the end game is just the recognition that one of the last vestiges of our assholeness is the fact that we cling to some notion that we're so marvelous and wonderful and spectacular, and there has to be us here forever and ever. Some version of me has to still be here, or the whole planet will be in disgrace, or whatever that horse shit is. The ego that allows people to think there's some actual point in attempting to build their own little Frankenstein, and the delusion that that's going to even happen anyway, that whatever you're going to create is going to be anything really like you, and how improbable that is. I'm really not, I like to say there's a little hint, of my parents in who I am, but it's just a hint, so it doesn't work, and so find something else to do with your time. Dumb project, and then you can get into the whole more important reasons to not have not propagate a future is because, look, they're just going to do the same old crap. You know, they're going to make a lot of mistakes. They're going to do all this regretting crap. They're going to pretend to sing a song like, I did it my way. You know, and then we're going to slice them up with razor blades and watch them squirm and die. Yeah, fuck that. Really stupid. Anyway. So, yeah. So let's play the video. I don't think the video has any of that in it, actually. I don't remember what the fuck it does have in it. I know I was trying to make some point and I just couldn't quite get to it. I think I was talking about just this progression of ideas, you know, and which ones you really have to, which ones are essential to this function, this not being an asshole thing. And I really think you have to understand what evolution is and understand that, yes, we're just fish, we're just bugs, we're just, you know, it's just a machine, all right, that was designed to, you know, pillage in a natural environment, and that's not the environment we live in anymore. And so now we have this higher intelligence that can allow us to moderate our behavior, and we just don't piss and shit whenever we feel like it, and we do certain things to make this thing that we're doing, living with each other, work. And we're really not designed for it. Yes, biology doesn't really enjoy it, but we can adapt to it. And the only way we can adapt to it constructively, okay, is that you have to have an understanding of the role you're playing and what's required of you, what your rights and responsibilities are, that kind of crap. All right. So somewhere in that, that's sort of the vague, you know, idea of the video. Yeah, but it's you know. Anyway, so let's play some of it. So you know, maybe it's not all waste. But you know, it's, you know, what's the mission statement? It's really just a way of it's something controllable, you know. Okay, so I'm just talking about
sort of project you can do that, you know.
Pause. There, that's the one I want. Yeah, so I was just talking about the fact that we find agendas, okay, things, little projects, and they're really just distractions and ways to occupy us with something we can control, because the big agenda is so hard to, it's so hard to paint on that canvas because it's so big. It's like it, you know, covers a whole continent, and you can't really see how the paint you're slopping has anything to do with the big picture, and so it's really hard to see the continuity. So we find little projects to do, little paintings to do. You know, because they're much more controllable and we get more instant feedback and all of that crap. And so just explain, this is just another way our brains need to be fed, and that's just a fact. They do need feeding, but they need, frankly, dinosaur food. And that's this sort of the tragic part, is that you have to grind up an awful lot of this dinosaur food to turn it into some sort of good behavior.
It's not going to go.
Oh, we don't need to do that. We need to jump ahead. Okay.
So simple. Of course, that's what happened. Okay. You know.
So it's, I think that's just where I'm making this idea that, okay, I didn't believe in God, and then I heard about this concept of evolution, and it just was so, oh, shit, of course, that's how it works. It made everything make sense about why everything was built so stupid. Why is shit? You know, why all these stupid things happen? You know, why they're not more fancier? You know, you're just saying if you were to build a world, well, you know, frankly, the shit would be in little pellets, and it would already come in a, you know, plastic bag, and you know, you just have it, you do it differently, okay, than this natural way. And that part I did figure out as a kid, that I would construct it entirely differently.
Created the universe or life. It just is. It's
So the argument is that it seemed kind of, now once you hear the evolution theory, then you say, well, there's no real option there, right? I can't go to intelligent design now because I know I can see the carnage. I can see how stupid it is to have things eating each other. And, we all should have solar panels on our heads. We all should be mobile plants. You know what I mean? We should, we shouldn't be stealing energy from other breathing, feeling organisms. So that becomes a non-starter for something intelligent. Why would I create extra trauma and blood and pain and suffering? I mean, again, it's, 5 years old, I could figure this stuff out.
Because there is no God, because the God would have to be a psycho.
That's, so have to be a psychopath, that's right. So why bother? And frankly, look, the gods they are praying to do seem sort of like insanely psychopathic, in terms of I'm going to send you to hell forever. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, maybe 10 weeks? I mean, do you really need to punish them forever? And they're not coming back, so what's the point? Just scaring things. You just have to make it so damn scary to break the rules. And do you really have to make it that scary? No, you don't have to, frankly. I mean, even if God said 10,000 years in hell, well, that almost sounds like forever, doesn't it? So that would be close enough, wouldn't it? I mean, just so goddamn stupid a story. And you're just, come on, you gotta do better than this. If you're going to tell me you must believe in something, you gotta find something better than that crap to believe in.
Culture and exposure and traditions and all that kind of stuff. And so that's the stuff I sort of want to talk about, of course, is what's the kind of definition of this knowledge evolution, right?
Okay, so now we're sort of getting to the point that, okay, we're out of biological evolution. We've invented the condom, a big one, and people have some knowledge of how it works, so if you don't want to have kids, you can avoid having them, and it's and then there's the other important factor is that the people who do have interests and people do have other stuff to do aren't going to breed, so the best aren't going to necessarily breed more. They're probably going to, especially if they're women and they're vain and they don't want to get fat and they don't want to do this and so a lot of there's a lot of negative incentives, and you end up just creating things in it's a devolution, not an evolution, because all of a sudden you're not testing the things that are procreating. And if there is a test, it basically says you're not fat enough for the ride. You're not dumb enough for the ride. You're not stinky enough. You're not ugly enough. I mean, the standards are all negative. Okay.
The knowledge, and how do you intelligently use the knowledge?
So that's the point, is that, okay, the only thing evolving is these conversations, the sentences we construct to describe our circumstance. Life sucks, not much of a sentence, but it's enough. And it's a statement, and it's those statements, that are evolving now in terms of not only just raw knowledge of the fact of, you could see, there's on the Galapagos, I've pointed out, there's these owls that hunt birds, and they don't fly anymore. So they're like cats, except they're owls, and the birds go into the rocks at night and, blah, 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 they make their nests, and the owl just sits on the rocks and pounces, and grabs the birds and eats them. And you're just saying, shit, that's just so insidious. It's just so grisly. Okay. There's just no, there's no way to turn evolution into some kind of benign, there's just nothing redeeming in it. And so these little pieces of knowledge become a statement like, that's gross, or that's too expensive, as I put it. those statements are now the only thing evolving. Are these you take the knowledge of having all of these examples, and then you try to put the examples into a statement that you can convey to somebody else. Now, I can't convey, the sort of the tragic part is I can't put a narrative in your head, okay, where, your mother dies when you're 12, or some other, tragedy happens that gives you a little appreciation for just how dangerous life is. The Olympics is always a good thing to rag on, because there's, plenty of people who probably could have won a gold medal, but they had to go to work when they were 13, or some other kind of thing. Life got in their way. Those are little murders, but they're still murders, and they're just still a price too high to pay for whatever it is we're doing. And it's almost, you could say it, whatever it is we're doing, because it's not looking all that spectacular what we're doing. It's all crass and tacky, and it looks really ignorant. When you look down on it and you see what we're wasting resources doing, billboards, no, it doesn't look very good.
Advertising and the needs of advertisers.
Oh, that's good that came up. And it just seems like that's all we're about, is just decorating the crudest parts of existence. Just flashing pictures of, steak at each other, with a hamburger. It's just rather pathetic. Even the stuff that has some sort of grace and beauty is such a tiny percentage, of what's being performed. The rest of it's, what's up? Kind of crap.
You're acquiring a functionality, but it feels kind of like pleasure, like fun.
All right, so then I was sort of talking about how, some of these things, these challenges to make yourself into a better person, you can turn them into, playing pool, or the pinball, or bowling, or, you can turn them into things that you generally think of as more fun. And it's just a fact that you can do that. You can make these things into Olympic events, and you could actually enjoy playing them, not as a contest, and not professionally, but just for the fact that all your brain needs to do is have the idea that this is the challenge and this is what you're going to get rewarded for. So you can just create the same kind of feedback mechanisms that make it tasty, and you have a taste for it. So I probably should have included the fact that you can learn to, moderate what you eat and what you enjoy eating. Okay, and you can do it. You can make gruel fun to eat, as long as you don't put blueberry pie next to it.
The integrity, my whole, me as a person is sort of riding on the fact that I've made claims and I have to prove them.
Right, so I talk about sometimes the project ends up being a little stressful and all that kind of stuff too, but that's all part of making it more exciting, and something that's also a motivation. So succeeding is a motivation, and then not failing is a motivation. And the negative one isn't much fun sometimes. That's like waiting for the bell to ring at school or something. I don't want to oversell But the truth is that sort of what you're doing in most of the things you enjoy is also trying not to fail, and you enjoy it. So it's just, it's all a head game.
Maybe imagining yourself in that circumstance or some kind of crap like that. Okay, and then there's the more, that's the hard part. Then you want to try to be able to migrate those kind of passive entertainments.
There you go. Yeah, and so the word is just to try to adjust yourself into, instead of finding pleasure in being an asshole, to derive your pleasure from being better and doing better things and constructing something useful rather than useless.
Out of any kind of notion of manipulation and self-interest and all of that crap.
So again, that's probably just a little bit more about the fact that, you can't change what you are as a machine, okay, in the sense that there's hormones and there's, physiology and all that kind of crap that demands feeding. But you really can do a lot to, you're not just a cow coming out of the barn stomping. You're a cow that understands, well, I don't want to make a whole big mess, so I'll walk over there where the ground is a little firmer, and I won't shit in the pathway because that's going to make it all messy. So, we can do it civilized. We don't have to do this interacting thing and this living thing and this existing thing in some kind of sloppy cow way. No offense to cows, but
some kind of bizarre African disease, and you're afraid you're going to catch it.
Can't remember what that was for. I guess it's just more risk-averse kind of argument, and that's sort of the blight of knowledge, is that you will become knowledgeable of all the jeopardy that you're in, and that can be quite disabling. And you have to try to find a way to not be hurt by knowledge and be able to make the knowledge, put it to some use rather than have it just disable you. Now, I personally haven't done a great job of that because it's it's just not easy. So I haven't been I'm not suited to it. Maybe, I don't know. So I'm still psychologically reactive and scarable.
Which is preventing harm in others, through...
So that's really the agenda. You have a brain, it has all these capacities, you learn skills, you have capacities, you have all this stuff, and what are you going to do with it? Well, the idea is to do something constructive, okay, and not do something useless or destructive.
You can only have 200 pounds on the bridge, and so there's no point in having a wheelbarrow that already weighs.
So yeah, these are challenges. How do you, even making this video, it's a challenge. How do you get to their brain, and what's the limitations, and what words can you use, and what words can't you use, and how do you do it, and blah 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 blah. And it's all, unfortunately, every one of you is a different person, and there's different rules. So the bridge to your brain, okay, might be able to take lots of weight, but it's really, really narrow. And the bridge to his brain over there, well, it's really wide, but you can't put more than 300 pounds across it. Some kind of bullshit like that. So it's a difficult, it's not playing chess. It's a little more complicated because the pieces keep changing as the culture changes. And speaking to old people and speaking to middle-aged people and speaking to young people is all different language, and it's very difficult.
And all of this complexity for no better purpose than propagating design features. And,
Yeah. Yeah, just making peacocks or whatever. I mean, again, we think we're something more, but we're really not. And it's like all of this suffering to make peacocks. I mean, come on. It's not worth it. It's just it doesn't make any sense. The universe must have peacocks in it. No, it doesn't need peacocks, and it doesn't need us.
say that's the only rational thing to do with it, your brain. You don't waste it on yourself. You try.
So I mean, that's a tough argument, just because, yeah, I know it's just so hard not to say I need. My brain is saying it's starving. I'm starving. I need me to construct something for me to feed me, because I'm withering and dying. I'm not getting enough fun nutrition, and so it's very difficult to recognize that I'm supposed to be devoting my brain to projects that don't have anything to do with me. But again, you don't really have to do that, because you can make the project of you not being an asshole something that you get badges for, so you can feed your ego. I'm better than them. That's not a negative thing, for you to have the agenda of just being better than them. And the fact is the contest of jumping the highest is really useless. Being Superman, saving civilization, well, that's very useful. So if you're going to try to win a contest, that's the one you should try to win.
Oh, I'll pretend it's enough.
Okay, so yeah, getting towards the end of the video where, yes, you're always in that point where, gee, how do you sum this up? Or, and, that kind of the beginnings and ends of books, kind of the important parts and all of that crap. So it is always this needs work, and I don't really have time, to work on, trying to make poignant the entire video. I mean, it shouldn't be condensed anyway, and it shouldn't be having to ride on a label, but frankly, that's what all these videos have to ride on, is their titles and their images and their icons, and that's a little short of being fair to the content.
Stuff. You don't have to kill people, and you don't have to run them over in the street or something. Why would you include all those nasty, horrible bits?
Okay, I think again, talking about if you were making the world, why would you make it this way?
Oh, frankly, I was pretty certain this isn't something I would suggest making more of.
Yeah, so a simple enough statement, I guess. So, just pointing out again, summing up in the sense of this is just about realizing what planet you really are on, okay, your place in the universe, and that's going to be described by understanding not only some kind of fact that you're standing in North America or something, but you really need to understand the context of billions of years of chemistry evolving to recognize what you really are. Alright, and what's been paid for it. I mean, the monstrous price of just hundreds of millions of years of feeling things eating each other. I mean, it's the longest running slaughterhouse. I mean, billions of years of just grinding things into pieces. Ew. Ew.
Living. Yeah, they just keep remaking the same mistakes.
Okay, yeah, so just, I was just talking about how, unfortunately this knowledge thing is still stalled in dogmas of tradition, and it can't the knowledge can't do anything because it's kept these lead balls of bullshit stuck in the knowledge bag. And so instead of floating, you know, and rising, it just sits on the ground, you know, because it's got these dirty stones of bullshit still stuck to our knowledge base, our perception, the average person's perception, let's just say, is full of, you know, hard, heavy clumps of manure. Anyway, so that's a video. So yeah, so it's just sort of a generalization, some kind of talk about this general idea of what the fuck am I making videos for, and you know, how can I do it more constructively, and so my own obligations to play a better game, and then, you know, the strategy for playing that better game, and, you know, all of that gets a little bit nuanced and complicated. But it does, I suppose, it can't be hurtful to just recognize that that's all. I'm just trying to do what I'm suggesting you try to do also, which is try to get the best out of your capacity to function, and, you know, take whatever skill set you have or whatever abilities you have and try to do something with them. And that's why I make videos. You know. Okay, so till the next time, and such and so forth and whatnot. Yeah, that's enough. Just measuring. Yeah, it's enough.